Uh, Good evening, everyone. Jai Guru. It is a privilege for me to be here today and moderate this session on the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. This is the 75th year of this book, and over the years, it's influenced the lives of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in fact, millions of people across the world. It has sold 4 million copies. It has been translated and transcribed in 50 languages, including almost all Indian and European languages. Uh, Paramahansa Yogananda ji was the first spiritual leader and yogi from India to cross the seven seas and spread the word of the science and the art of yoga to the Western world. Today we have Dr. P.K. Khosla and Vivek Atray with us. Dr. Khosla, as most of us know, is the Chancellor of Shoolini University. He's an Oxford-trained forest genetist and has been the Vice Chancellor of two universities during his long and successful academic career. Vivek Atray is an ex-IAS, Haryana cadre IAS officer. He has now taken up upon himself to inspire thousands and millions of young Indians and is a inspirational author and speaker. He is also the author of 4 books. So I'll start this conversation with Dr. Khosla. Dr. Khosla, what was the first time you came across the book, and what was your first impressions when you first read the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi?
Hello. Ashish, you're asking me my impression, how I got catch hold of this book. These copy of this book was, incidentally, Ashish is my son. It was awarded for his standing first in the class 10+2, along with 2 more books. My first impression was, what type of the books Yogi's autobiography is going to help a student for 12th class. Then later my second son, Atul, he also stood first in the college in 10+2, and he was also given this book. Again, the same impression. 2 copies were lying in the bookshelf. I never cared to look at it. All of a sudden, one day, I was alone at home. My wife had gone to her parents. So I was like a magnet attracted to this book. I pulled this book and opened one chapter. The chapter was very interesting. Briefly, I can tell you. It is the story of Swami Vivekananda, who was briskly walking to deliver his lecture in Chicago. Behind him, there was a young boy and his mother. The boy says, "Mother, he is the monk who saved my life while I was drowning." So both son and the mother also go to that lecture hall, and after the lecture, they meet Swamiji. What did Swamiji say to that boy? "My dear boy, you should beware of water." And when the boy was going to touch his feet, thinking that he is the guru, because those are also about souls, he said, "No, I'm not your guru. Your guru is born in India." That was Paramahansa Yogananda. He was a baby in the arms of his mother at that age. And I wondered. And he also told him, one day he will come to United States and he will give you a silver cup. Yogananda goes to United States in 1920. That boy, obviously now a grown-up person, becomes a disciple of Yogananda, because Yogananda lands in Boston, and there that boy was also, he was a resident of that town, and he baptizes Yogananda as his guru. But he never talked to his guru about his discussion with Vivekananda. In 1935, Yogananda came to India for the first time after 15 years, and on return, he takes some gifts for his top disciples. Obviously, that person was his top disciple. And when a Christmas gift is given to that person, it was a silver cup. Both Guru and the disciple smile at each other but do not discuss. He never told to his Guru about his meeting with the Vivekananda. That changed my way of thinking. Oh my Lord, how it could happen? Vivekananda is a grown-up person. He is in India and he is talking about Yogananda's words, and then the silver cup after so many years. It attracted me. I read the whole book, not once, many times. And I came to know this is also science. This is the material life. Everything is matter. And the control is with the soul. So my approach changed. My mother used to say his son is a theist. I knew that I am not a theist. And only thing was, I was not attracted towards the daily routines of worship and other things. But then, from that day, I became a student of Yoga Satsang Society in India, learned meditation, and after that my life has changed. I say it very with very affirmative voice that if this university is here, if I am unable to contribute, it is because of that exposure to Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. If I had not read that book, this university would not have come. Thank you, Ashish.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Khosla. Vivek, if I could ask you the same question, I mean, I'll talk about Dr. Khosla and how he got through that book later, but if I could ask you the same question, when did you first read about the book and what were your first impressions?
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, Dr. Khosla. In fact, firstly, let me say it's a joy to be talking about the autobiography on stage. It's such a personalized experience to be reading it frequently, and one doesn't really often talk about one's spiritual experiences, but no harm in sharing once in a while, trying to inspire maybe younger minds. And this whole concept of the Shoolini Literature Festival where we are, it's also a delightful concept. I'm sure we grow from strength to strength in the years to come. Coming to your question, I think I was like Dr. Khosla. I wasn't, he said he was classified as an atheist by his mom, and he wasn't. I was, I guess, like most Indians, you go to the mandir, and I would take my shoes to the home temple, and my mom would be cross at me. Why are you getting your shoes here? You have to leave them outside. And I used to tell her, Mama, man saaf hona chahiye, jooton se kuch nahi hota hai. That sort of thing, rebellious. But then gradually, I think you start taking a few knocks in life as well. And my wife was reading the autobiography of a yogi, Nina. She'd been gifted that book by a retired brigadier who himself was a very fiery army officer who says he read the autobiography of a yogi and became aware of life and became much calmer. So that had an influence on her. And she used to tell me, why don't you read it? And I used to be like, maybe one day, I read it 5 years after she read it. It was always there in our home. And I must confess, I took 1 year to finish it. 1 year. And I would read about 1 chapter, then 2, then 3. I stopped at 3. So I was not ready for it. That's my feeling. Gradually, I started accepting the fact that the autobiography of Yogi is a great volume of literature, of inspiration, and I think we can carry on with the voice, right?
Yes, I think we surely can.
So I just want to say that now I read it. Actually, I read a couple of pages every day now.
Okay.
I'm reading it for perhaps the 8th time. I think it's our receptivity which is changing, mine, and everybody's evolving. So I don't think a book like the autobiography of a yogi exists. It's one of the greatest books ever written, in my opinion. And to celebrate its 75th anniversary like this, one of the ways to show that we really care for the teachings of the Guru, but also the fact that it's very well written. So I grew to love it.
Great. So I'll just I agree with both of you. And the point is that when I first got the book, I was 17 years old. I opened the book, this is the book. I remember opening it. I went to the first page and I read this quote uh, from the Bhagavad Gita, and I said, this is not for me, right? It took me uh, maybe 7, 8, maybe 10 years, maybe more, before I read the quote in the Gita, which is that tapasvi bhayo adhiko yogi, jnani bhayo api mado adhika, karmi bhayo api madhiko yogi, tasmat yogi bhava Arjun, which means that a yogi and the path of a yogi supersedes anything, and that you don't have to climb the hill to reach self full realization. But the point is, at one level, it's a difficult book to really grasp. At the other one, Vivek, it's also something that has inspired, as we know, thousands, millions of people. So, what do you think is the reason that it's been such an inspiring book?
It's a universality. So it's Indian in its ethos, and the experiences are Indian, and Westerner reading it obviously find it more difficult to grasp because some of the things are innate to Indians. So we like somebody going to a temple and listening to a satsang or touching the Guru's feet or a pious person. It's natural in India, but it doesn't happen quite so naturally across the world. And the fact that it is universally appealing is something very true. And 50 languages.
Yeah.
90% of the world can read it in their own language. And I think the stories of the autobiography appeal to a lot of people. So some people, they read it, and this is very important here. When they read it, they find, they're great miraculous stories. And that is what appeals to people the first time. I think the Guru did that to draw the audience in. But the message is clear. The message is that of Kriya Yoga, and the message is that you can find your oneness with God on your own. You don't need miracles. And miracles, etc., just a pathway or whatever, you don't even need them. I think the deeper you go, the deeper the book is. And Dr. Khosla and I were discussing today that you open any page and you realize that this is what I was looking for. So I think the universality of applicability to all human beings. That's the greatness.
Great. And so, Vivek, what's your most inspiring incident from the book? Something that you keep going back to again and again?
So, two incidents. One where Paramahansa Yogananda meets Sri Yukteswar, his guru. And, he's walking in a bazaar in Banaras and he thinks he's going to meet his guru soon, but he doesn't know where. And he just sees a man standing on one of the by-lanes, tall with a beard, and looks at him and starts moving on. He doesn't really. But then the miraculous part, so his feet are not really moving on very well. He realizes something is drawing him to this man. Then he goes to meet him, and the Guru says, "My own, you have come." And for a Guru to say that because he's a Guru in past lives, the same thing happens with Larry Maharsh and Babaji. Babaji says something like that. He says, "I've been waiting for you with this cup polished and whatever. And have you ever heard of such deathless love?" These are the two most inspiring. So the Guru, someone like me, all of us are career-oriented people, most of us. You're going about your career, you think you're the cat's whiskers. Most of us think we don't need a Guru. And we'll never need a Guru. Of course, teachers are Gurus, but in the spiritual sense. But the fact that the Guru is needed, the most important message.
Great. I think we can ask the same question to Dr. Khosla. Dr. Khosla, Vivek's talked about a guru, and you're a guru yourself. So, what do you think what is the need for a guru for people in general, also gurus themselves or teachers? What's the real need of a guru, and how has this book been relevant in that way to you?
You see, meditation is a science. Just 2 + 2 is 4, the same way meditation is. You have to practice it to believe it. And it is a self-achievement. It cannot be taught. Yes, techniques can be given, but the results will depend how much serious you are and how much time you are spending. When I read this book, started reading this book, The first chapter itself influenced me. Yogananda, then Mukandalal Ghosh, was his sister Nalini was rubbing ointment on a ulcer. He took the oil from the sister and also started rubbing on his leg. The sister obviously asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "Tomorrow I will have another ulcer like this, more serious than yours." She didn't take it seriously. The next day it happens, she goes and runs and tells her mother, "Ki ye to jadugar ban gaya." Mother snubs him, "Don't do." She could know that this boy is different from others. Whatever he is going to say, that is going to happen. And he was discouraged not to use that type of a statement. Then the second thing is, the book is very interesting in a way. Even in the first few chapters, you are attracted towards the book. His guru's guru, Hari Mahashay, one of his subordinate comes to the guru. He says, "Sir, he is not then guru. He is an officer in the accounts department. He wanted leave. The reason he gives is that I have to attend a meeting. I have to meet my guru." As usual, he was snubbed by the boss. "What are you talking? Don't be fanatic. Religious fanatic. What are you talking?" His boss then, he was in the palanquin and he comes down and walks with him. Then the Hari Mahashay, his guru, appears before them. What he says on the road, he says, "You should not be so strict with your disciple, your subordinate. You should not be strict with your subordinate." And it disappears. Then this officer thinks over it and tells him, "I grant you leave, and also for me and also for you. Let us go and meet the Guru." So these instances just gives you an indication that this teletransportation is very important. That a yogi, in the book it is written, the yogi can, with the meditational techniques of Kriya Yoga, matter can be split into atoms. The yogis have that capability. There is another stunt of his one Ram Gopal. The Hari Mahashay was sitting and delivering a talk to his disciples. He directs Ram Gopal to go to the Ganga Ghat. Without asking, he goes there. Then he finds that some ball of light is coming towards him. It materializes into Hari Mahashay. Then another ball of light comes. It takes the shape of Babaji. That is Hari Mahashay's guru and also the guru later of Yogananda. Because that is immortal. What left his body? These things appear to be funny, appear to be, I would say, the stories, but the fact is that many people have seen Babaji, talked to Babaji. Even Yogananda writes, when he was going to United States, it was prophesied by Babaji to his guru, Yukteswar, that one day I will send you a student who will one day go to the America and give the Western world this science of meditation. He will be the first person who will stay there and make the many souls like engine are waiting to reach the God. And it happens. So all these instances made me to believe, yes, this is the science and this is possible, because the whole book is, in the morning, one of the lecture, it is a quantum physics. That it is believable. E is equal to mc square. And in one of the chapter on science of Kriya Yoga, another thing, Yogananda has written his book in logic, in science. 2 or 3 chapters are scientists. If you read that book, you start believing, yes, this can happen. So all these things influenced me, and I started believing it is not a fiction, it is a reality. And then I started my own search for a teacher who can teach meditation because I wanted to be a living guru. Then one day I saw a footnote in the book where it is written, it is not necessary you should have a living guru. A guru cannot all the time be with you. But staying in the astral world, your guru will go on guiding you. So then I thought, oh, I am a fool. I have got my guru already. So I adopted Yogananda, Yoga Satsang Society and joined it. Thank you.
Thanks for that answer, Dr. Khosla. Now, Vivek, one of the key messages in the book Autobiography of a Yogi is that anyone can be a yogi. You don't have to take sannyas to be a yogi. So, on your own personal experience or your take on how much is it truly possible for a householder to be a real yogi at the same time?
It's very possible because the misconception is that one has to renounce the world or one has to renounce much of the world. I think the message of the book, and Lady Maharshi is an example in that, is that you can carry on your duties, you can have a family, you can have a life, you can have a job, have a career, but you can meditate. You can follow the path of yoga. You can be in touch with God in your mind and your ideals as much as possible. Nobody's perfect. He's not talking about perfection. He's talking about the fact that God forgives your sin if you become a kind of, try to be connected to Him. So the more you thank the Lord, the more you love God, and that's where so you can love God as a householder. You can practice the meditation techniques as a householder. So Dr. Khosla and I and many others are practicing Kriya Yoga while being householders, and we go through the trials and tribulations of householders at the same time. When we connect our lives to yoga, to meditation, to the Almighty, then those problems and issues of our household also become easier. But just add one more thing to this particular passage of the session. What we're talking about miracles, again, I want to emphasize that miracles are not comprehended easily by someone who's living a practical life, moving around. There is a chapter called the Law of Miracles. We explain. No one can dare to write a chapter called the Law of Miracles. But he's done it. And he's writing a chapter called Outwitting the Stars. He says, your destiny is not blazoned across the sky. You can better your destiny by your conduct, by your connection with God. So he says, it's not, he believes or he emphasizes that astrology is a science. But he says it's not like your destiny is carved out forever already. You can improve your destiny. And there is a quote, a saint is a sinner who never gave up. A saint is a sinner who never gave up. A sinner becomes a saint because he didn't give up. So I think it's a very, very promising book to inspire and motivate the masses to improve their karma, their lives, their understanding of God.
Thanks, Vivek. In fact, I was reading somewhere that in a session, people said the first time when they read the autobiography of a yogi, they took miracles for a metaphor for belief. And if you take that and see what belief can lead you to, that is what they've taken it. And then they've been able to probably digest some of the messages there. Now, another and slightly unrelated question. Both of you are writers. Dr. Khosla, I have your book, Tryst with Karma here. That's also your autobiography. And Vivek, I have your book. Some of them are fiction, of course, but I look at this one, which is an inspirational book, which is It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. So to what extent has this book, which quite rightly, Vivek, you call it one of the published gems, to what extent has that influenced you? And we'll start with Dr. Khosla. As a writer, to what extent has this book influenced you?
I may not be wrong if I say that I had been influenced by this book too much. I had one of my colleagues, late Dr. Suraj Prakash Vej. He always used to write me, Prem, why don't you write your autobiography? My first question always used to be, who will read my autobiography? What special I have? Then he would say, Prem, no, you do not know your worth. You belong to a middle class. Your academic career is initially was average. Then you had shown signs of caliber. You stood first in the university, you made your career, went to Oxford for higher studies, came back, and from botany you shifted to forest science. You are a well recognized person. And this is a story which you should write for others. That average person can also make mark in life. So it took me 7 years before I could make up my mind that I should write this, what Suraj was asking me. But why then I had read this book? If you glance at my book, Tryst with Karma, what I say that doctrine of karma is there, whatever you do in this life, any action as is reaction. This is the law, fundamental law of science. Every action has equal and opposite reaction. So this happens in our life also. What we do, we have to always. At the age of 25, I was in the Darjeeling forest. I didn't have any verification certificate. In 1965, the war has started between India and Pakistan, and I was not knowing. And I was detained by the police, the army check post, and they handed me to the local police and put me in the lockup. अरे भाई मैंने 25 साल की उम्र में क्या पाप किया होगा कि मुझे लॉकअप में सजा मिली. And by then, with here and there letter, I bribed the थानेदार कि पैसे निकाल लेते हैं. वो कहते निकालो अपनी जेब से पैसे, जूते उतार दो, जरा बिल उतार दो. First 3 hours I wept. What has happened? आंसू खत्म हो गए. Then I thought no, I should come out. फिर उससे बात की कि पैसे छोड़ दूंगा तुम्हारे पास, please, I belong to, I am such a person, research scholar from Punjab University, you can talk. He was convinced finally that I am not a Pakistani paratrooper, because that was a border place where India, then Bangladesh was not there, Pakistan was there, East Pakistan. The border, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, all these, the common place. So obviously I was put under suspicion. Why I am citing this thing? I've given written in the book also, in my autobiography also, that how and why all these things happen. Because it's your past karma. You have to do. Then at the same time, just as Vivek said, you are the master of your karma, master of your destiny. You can change it also, outwitting the stars. Even Yogananda says, if you believe that, I don't believe in it, I will change myself, I am this, whole destiny can change. So my belief is that this book has influenced me, and if you read my book, the chapters are like the way this autobiography of Yogi is. I also start from my childhood, my parentage, growing in the academic career, going to that. But in the end, I also enter towards meditation, all these chapters. There is one chapter on the book that changed my life. That's I would say, the maximum number of the pages have been attributed to it. Then, and the last chapter is on COVID, because I finished the book while the COVID has started, rather in a way that facilitated finishing, helped me to write this book. Otherwise, मेरे जैसा आदमी लिख लो के 2 chapter पहले लिख लिए, बाद में लिख लिए, and I was not even remembering that this chapter I am writing the second time. So I got the chance because of COVID. I was sitting at home in the first period of the COVID. I finished this book. The book was published. All those things are facts, and this book has influenced me, and it's also reflected in my tryst with karma.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Khosla. Vivek, same question.
Yeah, at 2 levels, I totally agree with Dr. Khosla about the influence of the book. But, at one level, it's a very well-written book. We are celebrating its 75th anniversary. I know it's prescribed in many universities across the world. It's literary in its the manner in which it's written. And I know there was an editor, but Yogananda ji had that knack of expression. He says in this book, one passage which I really love, one sentence. He says, though man's propensity to land himself in trouble appears to be endless, the infinite succor is no less resourceful. The infinite succor, SOCCOUR, I think, is no less resourceful. So you land yourself into trouble, but he can pull you out of it. We are inspired by such writing. Not only the content, it's the way it's expressed. That is something which I wrote my first book when I hadn't read this. but I've written second, third, and fourth books afterwards. And if you look at my books, they're evolving from being, it's a little funny, but from being a rom-com to being It's Still a Wonderful Life. So my fourth one is a collection of my essays or my column. And many of them are influenced by the book. But being a person who's of the world and like talking about positivity, etc., and non-aligned in a way, even though I do talk about Kriya Yoga, etc., but I bring in the message in subtle ways. But I also bring in the message of Vivekananda or anyone else in my writing. I quote someone from the scriptures or from India or even Mother Teresa or anyone else. So it influences my thought, it influences my way of thinking, and I think we are all works in progress, we are all evolving. I'm evolving as well as everybody else is. I'm very grateful to that book for having helped me to evolve.
Thanks for the answer. In fact, what you're saying is that you were inspired both by the beauty of the writing and the beauty of the thoughts behind it. Yeah, actually, there's a quote there. Look only for the good in everything, and then you will truly observe the quality of beauty. And that's a quote in the book itself. So that seems to have directly inspired you. In fact, both of you, and you're not the only two people inspired. We had a video that we were supposed to be playing by someone who was inspired by this book to a large extent. Can we play it now? Thanks.
Steve Jobs' recent passing was marked by the revelation that, since he first discovered it in the 70s, he read Autobiography of a Yogi once a year for the rest of his life. The autobiography was the only book on his iPad, and he had it given to everyone who attended his funeral. His final words as he lay on his bed at home were, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow."
So Steve Jobs is or was the guru of modern technology, and this book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, was his guru. Yeah. Now, if I may ask both of you, if you could take one para or one quotation from this book and read it out to us, or a text from the book, just so that we can get the flavor of this book. Dr. Khosla, would you like to read very briefly any selection, or you can choose at random? I mean, any selection you take is, relevant.
Are you going to become a religious fanatic? He inquired. Concentrate on your office work if you want to forge ahead. Sadly, walking home along a woodland path that day, I met your father in a planking. He dismissed his servants and his vehicle and fell into his trap beside me. Seeking to console me, he pointed out the advantage of striving for worldly success, but I heard him lifelessly. What was repeating, Lahari Mahashay, I cannot live without you. Our path took us to the edge of a tranquil field where the rays of the late afternoon sun were crowning the tall ripple of the wild grass. We pushed in admiration. There in the field, only a few yards from us, the form of my great guru suddenly appeared. Bhagavati, you are too hard on your employee. His voice was resonant in our astounded ears. He vanished as mysteriously as he had come. On my knees, I was exclaiming, Lahari Mahashay, Lahari Mahashay. For a few moments, your father was motionless with stupefaction. Avinash, not only do I give you leave, but I give myself leave to start for Banaras tomorrow. I must know this great Lahari Mahashay who is able to materialize himself at will in order to intercede for you. I will take my wife and ask his master, to initiate us in his spiritual path. Will you guide us to him?
Thank you, Dr. Khosla, for reading one of the early passages from the book. Vivek, would you also do us the...
Yeah, I'll read from the very last page. Of
Oh, great,
the book.
great.
Before that, what I realized is that Dr. Khosla's first name is Prem. And Yogananda was known as Prem Avatar. He knows it. I mean, that is probably one of the reasons why he was connected to the god of, the avatar of love. And this last page encapsulates a lot of the message of the book. It's very difficult to summarize a book, but I'm just reading a couple of paragraphs. God is love. His plan for creation can be rooted only in love. Does not that simple thought, rather than erudite reasoning, offer solace to the human heart? Every saint who has penetrated to the core of reality has testified that a divine universal plan exists and that it is beautiful and full of joy. He shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The men of a hard-pressed 20th century at that time hear longingly that wondrous promise. The full truth within it is realizable, the full truth within it is realizable by every devotee of God who strives manfully to repossess his divine heritage. The blessed role of Kriya Yoga in East and West has hardly more than just begun. May all men come to know that there exists a definite scientific technique of self-realization for the overcoming of human misery. In sending loving thought vibrations to the thousands of Kriya Yogis scattered like shining jewels over the earth, I often think gratefully, Lord, Thou hast given this monk a large family.
Great, Vivek. Thank you for sharing that. Very inspiring. It says that there's a truth, and the eternal truth, which is a clear joy, can be attained by everyone. And that's why he wrote the book. He wrote this book so that everyone can get familiar with the path of yoga. Yeah. And any last words you have, Dr. Khosla, on the book? It's the 75th year. Any last words, thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before we close?
Firstly, I would like to add that this book has more respect outside this country. It is more read in the United States. This book forms the syllabus of psychology, philosophy, social sciences in many universities. But hardly in India, we think these things are not required. हमें अगर कोई ऐसी बात किताब इंडिया में आ जाए यूनिवर्सिटी सिस्टम में, वो कहेंगे ये तो फैनेटिक बन गई यूनिवर्सिटी. And it's a factual. A book, we have read a paragraph, so nicely written. It's so, I would say, fascinating. ऐसे लगता है कि बनाने वाले, लिखने वाले ऑथर ने इसको ऐसा डिजाइन कर दिया which cannot be explained in words. Each and every page is so wonderful, and the language he has written is masterless. I think this is the greatest gift to me in my life, that I got the chance to read it. And later, my wife took 6 years before, prior to that, I joined Yogananda School of Meditation. She also had read this book. Then now, I think we are very fortunate couple. We meditate together, fight together, and enjoy life together. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those very honest words, Dr. Khosla. Vivek,
So
last thoughts.
amazing thoughts. And since I'm the chairman of the Yogananda Center for Theology, set up by Dr. Khosla here, I must also mention that young students here who are, by the way, we have a large gathering for this session, and I'm under no illusion or delusion. I know that music is going to follow. But there were sessions where we had a smattering of people.
There is a chapter on smatterings of the power of music throughout the book here, right?
Right. But what I want to say is that once you've read the book, and even before you read the book, there are lessons on meditation which are available not only through the Center of Theology, but you can find them. YSS of India does that. And
Yes.
they are important. Because as I'll close with a share, which is from a WhatsApp University WhatsApp, not mine. So I should be identified with the share, right? But it sums up what we need to do. It goes like this. फितूर होता है हर दौर में जुदा जुदा, फितूर होता है हर दौर में जुदा जुदा, पहले खिलौने, फिर इश्क, फिर पैसा, फिर खुदा खुदा. Point is, खिलौनों के साथ तो खुदा खुदा को लाना थोड़ा बच्चों के लिए मुश्किल हो सकता है, बट इश्क के साथ साथ तो आ सकते हैं ना खुदा भी. Why wait for retirement? Or why wait for that lust for money and everything else to be over by the time, and then you start thinking of God? Start early. Start early.
Thanks for that couplet.
I have one message for students. Through meditation, you can convert adversities into opportunity. I have done it in my life. Twice I was suspended, and I utilized these occasions into opportunities. I realized if I was not suspended, I would not have created even this university. Because I had to meet the chief minister to explain him. I am a victim of events. I have nothing to do with the things. I am a scholarly person. I got the chance to show him what I have done in my life. He was so much impressed. Eventually, after having convinced, he told me, Dr. Khosla, you are in the court. I've taken the stay against my suspension. If the decision comes in your favor, government will support you. And he did support me. After my retirement as the Vice Chancellor, he took me to the state to Shimla as a scientific advisor. If I had not gone as a scientific advisor, I would not have dared even to think of setting up a university. So these are the events. Opportunities and adversities are part of your life, and please don't be disturbed. Try to convert with your efforts, as Vivek has that Yogananda has written. You can outwit the stars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khosla. Thanks for that point. What you're saying is true. The path of yoga is difficult, but the rewards are overwhelmingly, positive. And in fact, the best reward actually comes through meditation. Right? We have any questions for these two panelists? We'll be glad to take them. We can see Atul smiling. Does he have a question? Okay. So if you don't have a question, we will. Okay. We have a question. Poonam has a question.
So, two of the most cool-headed people that I know over here are Dr. Khosla and Vivek. I've seldom seen them losing their cool. Ashish is too new in the block for me to make up my mind. But honestly, I mean, both these people are highly respected, and I've dealt with them the last 8-9 years, and I've hardly ever seen them lose their cool over something. So, how much has meditation helped you both to keep?
Can I answer that?
In your
Can I answer that, Vivek? In fact, I'll answer that with a quote from this book, if you don't mind, Poonam. Let me just see. Okay. You may control a mad elephant. You may shut the mouth of the bear and the tiger. Ride the lion and play the cobra. By alchemy, you may earn your livelihood. You may walk on water and live in fire. But control of the mind is better and more difficult.
Super. Very nice.
So I think through meditation, yogis such as Vivek and Dr. Khosla have understood how to control the mind, and that gives them the cool. Yeah, but you want to add to that, Vivek?
No,
yeah.
I think we're all aspiring yogis or aspiring to do whatever. Nobody's perfect. We're all works in progress. I'm a Scorpio by birth, by the way. And there must be many Scorpios. Please raise your hands. Scorpio by birth, yes, there are a few. Yes, ma'am. There are a few smattering of them, right? So the thing is that I used to think that I have the license to lose my cool, and I used to lose my cool. But gradually I became, life enhances your abilities sometimes to handle yourselves. But this path of meditation is clearly the key, because you become a little more even-minded, and that is what is important. What you read is very important. None of us is perfect. You could still be fearful or angry at times, but you improve, and that is the key. You improve.
I endorse Vivek. गुस्सा तो आता है अभी भी, पर शक्ति आ जाती है गुस्से को रोकने की. Immediately you realize, no, you have not to do it. You are different now. You are Yogananda's disciple. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Khosla and Vivek, and thank you everyone. Bye.